Hi there, my name is Heather Hartwig, an early literacy coach at the LISD, and I just want to thank you for joining our facilitator training for the Lit Lab pop-ups. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we just want to give you a huge thank you for being willing to facilitate this summer's pop-ups. I want to introduce you to the rest of our team. You can see their faces here on the screen. We have Amanda Morris, she's our curriculum consultant. Laura Baker, she's another early literacy coach. Ruth Benj, another early literacy coach, and then myself. So we are the Lit Lab pop-up team, and we are here to help you answer any questions with your facilitation you might have. So just to keep our faces in mind. So just another thank you. Thank you for your willingness to facilitate these pop-ups for the students in the county and for taking the time to do this, because we realize this is a sacrifice of your time, and we really are appreciative of it. So our time together today will include an overview of the materials that you as facilitators and the students that you're facilitating for will have. We'll do a basic overview of your day one and day two, what that's going to look like. I'll do a Lit Lab pop-up mock-up, which will kind of guide you through what day one and day two will look and sound like with your students. And then at the very end, we'll just give you some asynchronous tasks you're going to want to complete before your facilitation date. The materials that you and the students will both have include a green tote. Hopefully you received that already, and in that tote for you and for all of the students will include a student Lit Lab guidebook. In that guidebook it will include additional reading, some pre-writing, STEM activities, all different kinds of things that they will need every week. So every week they'll need this student Lit Lab guidebook. Every student receives a writer's notebook. They'll do some pre-writing and revisions and published work in that book, so they will also need that each week. All of the students received a set of 8 books. 3 of those books are books that are featured during the weeks of facilitation, and I'll mention which ones those are later. You should have received your book for the read aloud. The only book that we didn't have available for the read aloud was Make Art from Anything, and that's available on Epic. So if you are that week, I will touch base with you and send you a link to that book. Every student has a pencil and a pencil sharpener, a switchboard which acts like a dry erase board and a dry erase marker, and a set of 4 crayons. So this is what they will find in their bags. Also in their bags there are a few STEM materials that wouldn't fit in the STEM kit. So also in the bags they will find a paper plate and some construction and copy paper that they'll need for some of those weeks. So the next thing that each student and facilitators received was a STEM kit, a Nutty Scientist STEM kit. Inside that STEM kit are these little plastic bags which all are clearly labeled with the activity that they'll be doing for that week. So we are going to start with a student view. Every student has this student Lit Lab guidebook. Inside that guidebook, as mentioned earlier, it has weekly guides to all activities. It has a vocabulary activity that will follow the read aloud, pre-writing, writing invitation, pre-planning for a STEM lab, and it has additional informative readings. Sorry, this is covering part of the screen here. And this lab book, if you want a digital copy for little snips for your presentation, it can be found on the website, which I will show you a little bit later. So then we'll cover your view, your facilitation view. So we'll go over your weekly plans, the read aloud slides, that fan shut off, writing videos, additional resources, and the Nutty Scientist videos. So you may want to pause here and take a moment to review both of these materials. Here is a link to the Lit Lab website that you should have found access to in an email. You probably have a link to that also that accompanied the video link, and also the student guidebook. This will help you to get more familiar with the materials we'll be talking about. So if you want, take a moment, just pause, peruse these, and then come back and join us. If not, you can just keep listening, and you can always come back and rewatch this if you have questions. Ooh, I clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. All right, so we're going to do a quick overview of your Lit Lab days 1 and 2, and this overview can also be found on the website, so I'll show you it both places. So day 1, you will start with a read aloud, which includes vocabulary and questioning and application to that vocabulary, followed by an invitation to write. So you're going to model a specific type of writing for the students, then you're going to give them a little bit of time to write, followed by some next steps so that they know exactly what to do between their Tuesday and their Thursday session. We really want to encourage students to write every single day, not just the days of pop-ups, but every day throughout the summer. Just take a few moments and write in their writer's notebooks. Our hope is that you would encourage that through your time with your students. After writing on day 1, you will end with your STEM activities. So you will view some Nutty Scientist videos. There are some day 1s that you'll watch the entire video and some that you just watch a portion of, but that's clearly labeled on the website, and I'll show you where to find that in a bit. And then you're going to give them some time to plan and draft their STEM challenge. And then you'll end your time together. That is day 1. So day 2, you will begin your time with a quick check-in with students, followed by, and I clicked the slide. Oh, I didn't realize those are popping up. There we go. So you will start your day with a quick check-in with students, followed by revisiting your STEM concept. So on some of your day 2 days, you might watch the rest of your Nutty Scientist video, or maybe you just play little snippets of it if you watch the entire thing the first day. After you've reviewed your STEM concept, you're going to give them a chance to share their STEM challenge. And they are going to talk through their challenges and successes, and they're going to follow a protocol of praise, question, and suggestion, modeled first by you, and then use that as they respond to their peers about their sharing. After they share their STEM challenge, they will share their writing. And you're going to use the same protocol, that praise, question, suggestion. We'll talk more about that later. And if you have time, you can delve into the additional readings, and those are all found in your Lit Lab guidebook. So after each lesson, for instance, in the first week's lesson, you'd see an article on the art of Rube Goldberg. So you might read portions of that, you might talk to them about it, you might talk to them about it, read parts of the article, and then show them a Rube Goldberg or something like that. So there are lots of possibilities. So while this is, laid out for you in this way, we want you to know that you have flexibility to insert things that you might want to, things that you think might be engaging to the students, and we just want you to feel free to have that flexibility. And so if you don't have time for those additional readings, then you can just encourage them to read those either themselves or maybe with an adult at another time. So that is just a quick overview of day 1 and day 2. I want you to know that you can find this overview on the website. So let me show you quickly how you can find that on the website. So this is the Lit Lab website. If you click at the top on weekly pop-up plans before you click on each week, you'll see that the overview is laid out here. So day 1, day 2, and then there's also a link to the guidebook and some other links below, including some timers that you may want to include in your presentation. Okay, so that's how you're going to find your overviews, or you can always refer back to these slides. So next we're going to move into just a short, really abbreviated version of a Lit Lab mock-up. That's really giving me a tongue twister today. So I'm going to kind of show you how you might present this to students and just give you some suggestions for how you might facilitate this part of your lesson. So for each read aloud, for each week there's a featured read aloud, and each read aloud has a digital version of the book, and you can find that on the website. I'll show you that when we get to the planning stage. So everything we're doing through summer Lit Lab pop-ups are really grounded in the essentials. From the students choosing their own books and seeing themselves as readers and writers, which is represented in Essential 1, to opportunities to study models of writing and writing over a variety of texts. That is represented from Essential 6. And then you see here in Essential 2, you'll be doing modeling of fluency. You'll be using child-friendly explanations of words and higher order thinking discussions. And all of that can be found here in Essential 2. So we just want you to know that all that you're doing is grounded in these essentials based on research, which are, something that we want every child to be doing every day that they're in school. And the days that you're with them, you are really helping to improve their literacy. And we are so grateful for that. If you want a link to the essentials, you can see that on this page of the slides. And so if you want more information, you can head there to that link right here. So throughout your read aloud, you'll see when you get to the lesson plans that there is some suggested read aloud vocabulary, and there are words and child-friendly definitions right in the lesson plans. But as you're reading through your read aloud in preparation for your read aloud for the students, you are going to encounter some words that you're going to realize aren't on the lesson plan list that some of your students will not know. Remember, you have students from kindergarten, just exiting kindergarten, all the way up to 4th and 5th graders. And so as you're reading through your read aloud, please try to note any words that you think any student in that age range might not know. And then head to this kids.wordsmith and find a child-friendly definition there. It's a great resource, and I've used it a lot, and it is very helpful. So just keep that in mind as you're planning. So throughout the story, like I said, there are lots of opportunities to insert those child-friendly definitions. So make sure you're using that site that I just mentioned there. In addition to making sure that you have those child-friendly definitions in your story, please try to include 2 to 3 planned places in your book that you're going to pause and you are going to model visual thinking strategies. And you are going to, just really help them to dive into the illustrations and understand those even better. I will model that in the read aloud, and I'll also show you where those can be found. Lastly, please encourage students to use their switchboards and markers, because you aren't going to be able to hear likely from every student on the Zoom call, but we want them all to be engaged in the learning. So if you're asking everyone a question, you can encourage them all to write the answer on the switchboard or draw a picture that represents their answer. And then maybe you only ask for, a couple to share out loud. I mean, we couldn't possibly hear from everyone every time, but that gives them all an opportunity to interact during the lesson. All right. So you are going to start your day 1 with your read aloud. There are many of these books lend a great opportunity for you to build background knowledge with your students. So I'm going to model how I would do that using week 1's book called, if you can see it here, it's called Those Darn Squirrels. So you're going to want to make sure your students know what they need. So I would start off day one by letting the students know, boys and girls, take a look at the screen because today you're going to need these materials. The materials you see here, you will need for this next part of our lesson. So make sure you have your student guidebook, you have a pencil, you have your switchboard and a dry erase marker. And if you can't find one of those things, that's okay. Just hang in there and you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine without it. But if you have it handy, then go ahead and grab that. Using your switchboard and your marker, we want to do just a quick check-in. I'm going to show you the cover of the book that we are going to read together today, and I want you to use your switchboard to show all of us how you're feeling about the read aloud, okay? So I'm just going to show you the cover, and I want you to kind of think to yourself, how does that cover make me feel? Does that cover make me feel like, I'm not sure? Do you just love it? Maybe you draw a big heart, or maybe you draw a face like this with little heart eyes, or are you like, oh, I can't wait to read that book, all right? So you have three choices. I'm going to show you the cover, okay? And you may want to show them the cover of the book, the digital cover of a book, because they'll be able to see it better. But, okay? And then I'd invite all the students just to hold up their switchboards to the camera so we can all see. And then I might say something like, wow, I see that lots of you are so happy and excited to read this book with me today. Some of you aren't sure, and some of you think you're going to love it. And so when I saw the cover of this book, I thought, oh, I'm going to love it because I saw some fun illustrations and it just looked to me like a really fun book. So let's go ahead and start our read aloud for today. Well, before we start reading, I thought that we should learn a little bit about squirrels because our book is about those darn squirrels. That's the title of our book. And boys and girls, sometimes when we learn about something in a book before we read it, it helps us to understand it even better. So I pulled out some fun facts that I thought you might want to learn before we get started reading. It will also help you with your STEM activities, so I'm so excited to share these with you. So did you know the word squirrel means shadow tail? Do you know what a shadow is? It's like where the light can't get through it, so behind it kind of casts a dark figure. That's a shadow. So in Greek, the word squirrel means shadow tail. And I thought to myself, why would they call a squirrel a shadow tail? So I found this link to what it means. And it says here, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says it comes from skioros, from skia, meaning shadow, and ora, meaning tail. Presumably, the squirrels of long ago Greece also sat with their bushy tails raised up against their backs and over their heads, casting a bit of shade on their furry brows. I thought that was kind of cool, and there it shows a little squirrel there below. So I thought that was a fun fact that you might want to know. All right, here's some more. The hind legs of squirrels are double jointed. That means they can bend different ways, which gives them the ability to run up trees very quickly. Thumbs up if you have seen a squirrel run up a tree very quickly. Yeah? Looks like almost all of you have seen a squirrel run up a tree quickly. Well, the next fun fact tells us why they can run so quickly. Listen to this. Squirrels have 4 toes on their front feet. Do you see those? 1, 2, 3, 4 on their front foot, which are extremely sharp and used for gripping tree bark while climbing. They also have 5 toes on their back feet. Do you see their 5 toes on the back foot? That's incredible. That they just grip the bark as they climb up that tree. That's how they can go up so quickly. And this last fact was one that I didn't believe at first. It says squirrels can fall from 100 feet high without hurting themselves. I don't know if you've ever seen a squirrel jump off of a really high surface, but it's like they spread their whole body out and they almost become a parachute. But 100 feet is really high. All right, last fact. Squirrels can eat their own body weight every week, which is roughly 1.5 pounds. You've probably seen squirrels out in your yard digging for nuts and different things, and they seem to always be eating. They're always stealing my bird seeds. All right, so now that you know a little bit about squirrels, we're gonna jump right into our read aloud. So today, we're reading a book called Those Darn Squirrels by Adam Rubin, illustrated by Daniel Samiri. And so I would use my lesson plan, your lesson plans, I'll show you where to find those in just a moment, to do some pre-reading activities. So we built some background knowledge, and maybe now you're having a really short discussion about the cover of the book or something like that. There are a bunch of suggestions on the lesson plan. In the lesson plan, you'll see that it highlights some pages where you can insert those child-friendly definitions into your read aloud. So I'm going to model that now, and I'm also going to model how you might use one of the visual thinking strategies. So I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but I am going to use page 15 to model how I would insert a child-friendly definition. Oopsie, I just bumped the mouse. And then I'll use another page to show you I'll show you the visual thinking strategy. So I'm going to find that here. So when you go to the website, you can find these digital versions of the books. And I'm just going to quickly model this page for you. And you can see in my book that I put a little sticky note there, and I have the word and the definition I want to use so I won't forget to do it or what I want to say. But the squirrels were determined. They devised or invented or thought about a plan, and this time they took all the food from the bird feeders. Okay, so I would just quickly insert that in and continue reading on. Page 20. Okay, so if I was inserting a visualization strategy here, I would, after reading this page, I would invite the students to take a close look at this picture here. Look at all the different parts of it. And make sure I gave them adequate wait time. And then I would say, what is happening in this picture? Who can tell me what's happening in this picture? And then I would invite a student by name to unmute and share what's happening in the picture. So after they share, so maybe the student says, I think they're making a plan. Then I might, after they were done with that, I might say, boys and girls, if they said, I think they're making a plan. First, I'm going to paraphrase, and I'm going to say, okay, they're working on a plan here. And then I would say, what makes you think that they're making a plan? How do you know that? How did Joey know that they were making a plan? Who can tell me that? And they might say, I see a picture in the middle of the table. They're making a picture. So I would say, yes, here you can see that they're making a picture. And so you can see that they're making a plan. Thank you so much for sharing. And then I would ask, what else do you see happening in this illustration? And I would invite another student to share. Then I would paraphrase. And then I would ask them, how do they know that that is happening? So that is just one of the visual thinking strategies that you can use to facilitate their thinking in looking at those illustrations. All right, after your read aloud, and you're going to follow that lesson plan, you're not going to be able to use every single part of it, but as much as time allows and what you think is best for the time that you have with your students, then you will see a page in the student guidebook it will have the week, and then it will say vocabulary. And you are going to make sure when you get to this portion of your lesson that you are either using a document camera, maybe you have an app that you can put on your phone that makes it act like a document camera, or perhaps you have a touch screen computer that you can write right on. to show the students exactly how they're going to do this activity. So make sure they can see this page so they feel successful and can see exactly how to do it, and they know what to do when they're finished. So modeling here is going to be very important. So here is where you're just going to review the vocabulary, and then you're going to do this show and tell. And you're just going to follow the directions that are on the page. Now, last year when I did my facilitation, we ran out of time to include this in our day 1, and so we moved this vocabulary portion to day 2, and it was a great time to review vocabulary, but you may not be doing a day 2 if you're only a day 1 facilitator. So if this fits, that's great, but don't feel like you have to squeeze everything in to your one session with your students, even if you only have 1 day of facilitation. All right, so when planning for your read alouds, here is, I'm just gonna show you where you're going to be able to find those materials. So let's go to the website, and when we do, it will look really similar to this. You're going to go to the weekly pop-up plans, and then you're gonna find your week. So I'm going to go to the website. I'm going to go to my weekly pop-up plans, and then I'm going to find the week that I'm facilitating. We're just going to click on week 1, and let me show you where those materials are found here. So my lesson plan for my read aloud can be found right here. When I click on that, it's going to bring you to a Google Doc. Please ignore the week that is listed. That is not correct, but everything else is correct. Gives you the vocabulary, your pre-reading, during reading, and post-reading activities to do with your students. And like I said, you will not be able to cover every single thing in this lesson plan. Just take out, just use the parts that you think are best and that work for you and your students. So next to the lesson plan, you can find the digital version of the book. So you can click here and it kind of pops it out. And then if you want to copy this link to pop it into a Google slide or a PowerPoint presentation for your facilitation with students, that really helps your presentation to go smoothly. So I would highly encourage you, as you are planning for your day of facilitation, to put together a Google slideshow or a PowerPoint with every single thing you need on there so that your time with the students just flows really smoothly. As you know from being in the classroom, even just a few seconds of, computer troubles or not being able to find something can really get students off task. So I would highly encourage you to do that, and I would love to help you to put that together if you need any assistance. Let's go back to our slideshow. So that is where you're going to find those materials that you will need for your read aloud. So we kind of covered this already, but in your preparation, you're going to read the book that you were provided for your read aloud. You're going to note the vocabulary and questioning from the lesson plan. Make sure that you identify 2 to 3 places for those visual thinking strategies. Those are not listed in the lesson plans, I don't believe, but those are all able to be found on the website. And I'm going to show you where those are right now. So the visual thinking strategies can all be found if I just click at on the weekly pop-up plans. So I don't go to a week, I just click on the weekly pop-up plans. I scroll past day 1 and day 2 overview, past the books. Oh, that's not right. Let me see here. Sorry about that. Let me click on that on the training and see if it's there. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you're going to click on training. Below the presentation that I'm making right now will be linked here, and this is where all the slides will be, and you can go to those anytime you like, are those visual thinking strategies. The visual thinking strategy I modeled from the page of Those Darn Squirrels was this one right here, but there are others here that are very simple, so you might just ask them, what does this look like? And then paraphrase, and then what else? Or, there are lots of different questions you can ask relating to the illustrations. And you can find all of that under training. That's where you'll find the visual thinking strategies. And don't think you have to change them up for your 2 to 3 pages. You can just use the same one. That gives students confidence to know what to expect. So you don't have to take 2 to 3 of these different strategies. You can use the same strategy. All right. The last bullet on here deals with thinking about how to invite student voice with the switchboard and marker. So give them as many opportunities as possible to interact with you using their switchboard and their marker, or giving you a thumbs up, or maybe even like a 1 to 5. 1 might mean something, 2, 3, give them ways to interact with you through different ways. That will just help them to feel engaged. So I already showed you where to find the read aloud, lesson plan, and the actual digital read aloud. So after you finished with your read aloud on day 1, then you are going to invite your students to write. And so you are going to find the plans for writing right on the website, right on the Lit Lab website. So let me just show you where those are right now. So when you go to your week, everything you need for your week is found here. In the very middle of the page, you're going to see invitation to write. It's going to show you the pre-writing page that's found in the student guidebook, and included is a writing instruction video. And these are really great videos, not just for these pop-ups, but if you're a classroom teacher, there are some excellent writing instruction videos in here that will help to guide you in that. So save these for later. Use these videos to guide you through the lesson plan of the writing instruction. It will tell you exactly what to do. I know last year when I facilitated a week, I had to watch the video a few times and make a lot of notes, but they're not long videos. And you'll have everything you need from this for your writing video. I do want to point out that above each video, it's labeled the week. The week is labeled correctly, but on the actual picture of the video, it has the incorrect week. So just ignore that and just know you are following the correct week's writing instruction, and it's labeled at the top. All right. So now you know where to find your invitations to write. Also, right below the invitation to write on the website, you'll find some additional resources. If you need additional resources to incorporate into your writing lesson, you can find those below. You may or may not need to use those, but just know that they are available for you if you do. All right. So for students, when you begin your writing portion following your read aloud, you are going to invite them to have the materials handy. Shouldn't have gone back one. So make sure that your students, when you get to the writing portion of your lesson, all have their writer's notebook and their student Lit Lab guidebook, which they should have already out from the read aloud. So just make sure they have those materials handy. They'll also need a pencil. That's not on the screen, but they will need their pencil. They should have that out from the read aloud. So as previously mentioned, each week students will find an invitation to write in their guidebooks. For week 1, this is the invitation to write. So I would let students know that today we're going to solve a problem. Science, engineers, and mathematicians are problem solvers, and so are squirrels, just like in our book that we read, Those Darn Squirrels. Imagine that you are one of the squirrels in the story this week, and you have a problem. You can't get to the feeder. What could you do to solve the problem? In the space below, draw a picture that illustrates your solution or your answer to the problem. It gives us some ideas for planning here. Look here. It says we could build steps to a feeder. We could jump from one feeder from a tree to the feeder. We could use a rope or other materials to pull the feeder down. I wonder what other ideas you might think of. If you were a squirrel, how you might get a feeder out of how you might get a feeder out of the tree. Think for a minute. What might you do? Okay, and then I would model for them what I would do so they don't feel lost. So I would make sure that I had this page under a document camera or projected in a way I could write on my screen. And I would model it for them. I would say, if I was a squirrel, I think that I would set up my mini trampoline right close to the feeder, next to the tree, and that I would jump onto the trampoline and then as high as I could until I got to the feeder, and I would pull it down to the ground, and then I would eat all the seeds. So I wouldn't have the picture up, but I would draw it for them as I was explaining it. You can see that I labeled some of my things here. You might encourage them to label the things on their picture, and then draw their attention to, so after you have, then you're going to give them time. After you've modeled it, you're going to give them time to draw their own picture. And this might be where you insert a timer in your presentation. There are Google timers found on the website. You can just grab one and pop it into your slideshow or something else. Maybe you play music and let them know when the music stops, then you're going to end their time of drawing. But then it gives you next steps. And on the next steps is where it's going to encourage your students to move from this planning stage to a drafting stage. And that's where they're going to transfer their pre-writing in their notebook to their writer's notebook. And so you're just going to read at the bottom what they're going to do. So in your notebook, in your writer's notebook, you are going to write about how you solved the problem and got to the feeder so that other young engineers can learn from you. So I am going to model for you how I would do that. So you're going to get out your student guidebook or your writer's notebook that is found in your green tote bag, and you're going to use your document camera to show students exactly how you would write out your solution to the problem and how you got to the feeder from your picture here. Excuse me. So here's how I would do that. Just showing how they're transferring this to here. So once you have your notebook out and they can see it, you're going to model your writing. And you're just going to read it for them and do a think aloud while you're writing. Help them to see that they can be writers too, but that they have to think about what they're going to write before they write it. And so I wrote one here. My squirrel Lucy has a brilliant idea. She's decided to set up her mini trampoline at the base of a tree. She plans to run onto the trampoline and jump as high as she can. When she jumps up, she'll grab the feeder and pull it down. Voila, dinner. So I have my writing. I modeled the writing. That's going to take you a little while. And then you're going to invite them to write. And you're really going to explicitly tell them exactly what they're going to do. And you're going to give them time to do that. Give them a few minutes to do that, depending how much time you have left. Just make sure that that they have time to do that. Probably 5 to 7 minutes, maybe even longer, just depending on your students. Maybe you have them give you a signal when they're ready, or just, set the timer and say, you have this much time, finish as much as you can. All right, that was a lot of information. I want you just to take a moment to pause the video, and I want you to jot down the questions you have right now. You know, what do you still wonder about? What do you want to know? Just jot those down and pause the video, and then just start it back up when you're ready. All right. So you're still in day one. So after you have done your read aloud, your invitation to write, you've given them time to write, you are going to move into the STEM section of your lesson. So you're going to start your time with your students by engaging them in the lesson through a Nutty Scientist video. This will also give you a few minutes just to like play a video and like gather whatever you need to, and it's a good little break here for you as well. So for day one of week one, they are going to be watching the video Marble Maze. All of these videos are found on the website. So let me show you. So right below your invitation to write, you will find your Nutty Scientist video. There's like a little link here and also over here. I know I had to copy the link and paste it into my URL. So just so you know, that is where you'll find this video. You can pop it right into a Google slide and view it from there. That will make it easier for your students. And there's a little red note below each video letting you know how much to play on day one and day two. The Nutty Scientist video for week one is the entire video. And, but let me show you week two. Let's just show you what I'm talking about. I need to add that to week one. Sorry about that. All right, so see here, this is week two. So day one of week two, you're only watching until 7:37, and then you're gonna pause the video there. And then you'll continue on day two with the video. Some weeks, like week one and I think it's week 7, scroll down here. Yeah, you're gonna watch the entire video. So if you watch the entire video on day one, then on day two, you're just going to kind of review the video and maybe play a few little parts of it. So that's where you'll find your video for day one. So after viewing the video, you are going to give your students some instructions for their STEM challenge. So remember at the beginning I showed you that each student would get a STEM kit, and you also should each have a STEM kit as facilitators. And in that STEM kit, you will find the title of your activity. So if I was week one, I would find Marble Maze. And I would invite the students to look in their guidebooks to find this pre-planning page. All of the pages in your guidebook are numbered, so that might help your students to know how to quickly turn to it. So I'd invite students to turn to page 5. Boys and girls, we're going to start the part of our lesson today on our STEM lab. And today we're going to do a fun activity called Marble Maze. You can see on this page in your guidebook that it tells us about our STEM challenge, and I'm going to read that to you. It says here, think like an engineer and design a maze that your marble has to work from start to finish to get through. How many twists, turns, or tunnels can you add to make the path as tricky as possible? So you get to design a marble maze today. And you're going to use the materials listed here, and you can find all of these either in your tote bag or your STEM kit. So today we're going to have straws, colored cardstock, marbles, scissors, tape, and a paper plate. So the paper plate is found in your tote bags, but all the rest of those materials should be found in your STEM kits. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to take out the little baggie that says, I don't have one here, that says Marble Maze, and you should see all of those materials inside of it. If you are week 1, please encourage the students not to open any of the other week's bags, because if they lose their materials, they will not be able to complete the rest of the STEM activities for their summer. So that would be awesome if you could please reiterate that on week 1 and probably week 2 as well, if you can. So take a look at your materials, all those materials there, your straws, your paper, your tape, your paper plate. And I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about how you might use those to create a maze. All right. And then you're going to invite them to use this open space in the bottom of their guidebook. I might encourage them for this one, draw a circle in the middle of this page, and that's going to represent your paper plate, because you're going to be building your marble maze right on that paper plate. And then I want you to create a maze, and you'll want to model this for them. So have your document camera ready and say, if this was my planning page, I might I might put a straw here and a piece of tape here, and just explicitly model how you might draw your maze, and then invite them to draw their own maze. So give them 5 to 8 minutes to do that. You can use, either some music or a timer that you can find on the website. So you're going to invite them to plan how they're going to make their marble maze, because Thursdays, they're going to share their finished product with their group. Also, let them know that there is a 1-page activity. There's 1 week that's 2 pages, but there's a 1-page activity found right on page 6. And on that page, it gives you it gives you some more of the background about engineers and problem solving, but it also tells you exactly how you can make that marble maze. So if you don't remember today how to make that maze from what we're talking about, you can use that page 6. You can ask an adult to help you if you can't read it, or you can maybe use the pictures to help you to understand how to complete your challenge. And that is the end of your day. Oh, let me show you. There it is. So this is page 6. So you can see that 1-page marble maze sheet is right. It's in their student books right next to their planning page. All right, and that's the end of your day 1. All right, so your view, we talked about this. We already talked about where you're going to find the video. Remember, those are on the website. And then we're going to jump to day 2. All right, so day 2 for the marble maze, day 2 for the STEM lesson, you're just going to jump right into reviewing your STEM concept. So some weeks, so I guess let me stop here. If you are only facilitating day 1, then you don't have to watch the remainder of this video. You can stop it here and just, fast forward ahead. But remember that you're going to watch the entire video on your day 1. So if you're only day 1, go ahead and stop the video, or I should say fast forward the video until there's about a minute left, until you get to the part where it just has some helpful hints on facilitation. If you are facilitating days 1 and 2, please watch the remainder of the video so you know what to do for day 2. So day 2 begins with a STEM concept, like I was saying. And so you will either watch the rest of your Nutty Scientist video, which kind of does a review of their activity, or you might just watch little bits and pieces of the video if you already watched the entire video on day 1. So setting the stage to share successfully involves these things. I'm just going to quickly review them. Make sure you give them clear think time. So when you're inviting them to share their marble maze, they worked on it through Tuesday and Wednesday. It's Thursday, and they're ready with their project to share for their group. Make sure you give them clear think time on what they want to say before they say it. I think we've all been in the situation where they don't know what to say, and it's difficult for them and for you. So in order to do that, you're going to give the students time to rehearse and practice. The T is missing there, but one way they can do that, you can invite them to maybe rehearse, give them a couple minutes, talk into your elbow, tell your elbow what you're going to say to the group, whisper into your hand, practice on mute, grab a stuffed animal, give them 1 minute to do that. And then you're going to give them some conversation cues to scaffold the students' responses. So they're going to say, here's my marble maze, and they're going to show, the camera, I made this, I made lots of twists and turns. And then you might invite them, when you share, after you share your project, I want you to share one challenge you had. So after you share with us, show us what it looks like, and then share a challenge that you had while you were building this. So here's my marble maze. Look at how I did it. One challenge I had when making my marble maze was that my straws didn't want to bend very well. So I had to cut them smaller and use extra tape. And so really model for them how you would do that, because you're also going to complete these STEM activities, and you probably have your own challenge you can share with them. So there are just some other ways that you can scaffold those conversations with them here. Maybe something they learned when they were building it, something they're proud of, or something they want to try again. But I would only give them one of these conversation cues per day that you're facilitating. So after a student shares, we are hoping that students will respond to their peers and that they will respond in this way. So after someone shares their design and a challenge that they had, then you're going to give an opportunity for another student who might not be sharing their design to respond to that. So they might say, a praise, they might say, I liked how you made lots of twists and turns in your marble run. Then they're going to ask a question. I wonder what would happen if you added another turn right at the end? I wonder. And then a suggestion. I sort of suggested one there, so that wasn't a very good example. But, what if you tried to move your straw here the next time? So we want them to try to learn to respond in this way. And hopefully by, the end of the summer, we won't have to model it quite as much, but please model the praise, question, suggestion in how to respond to someone who's sharing. And you may have to kind of prompt them as they're sharing, what is your praise? What's your question? What's your suggestion? So after sharing their STEM challenge and responding to some of those shares, they're going to have an opportunity to share their student writing. So same thing, give them time to rehearse and practice and using these conversation cues to scaffold their responses. And then the same kind of response, that praise, question, suggestion. So after they have shared their writing, you are going to want to invite them to revise their work, because writers don't just write one time and they're done. They write and then they change things to make it even better. So you're going to invite them to work on 3 things today. Okay, and you're going to model for them how you're going to work on things in their writing. Now, they may not have 3 things, but maybe they only have 1, or maybe they have 2, but they might choose up to 3 to work on. So that might look like this. So I might model for them, well, I'm going to use my writer's notebook today, and I'm going to make a revision list. So today I want to describe the tree that I had in my first writing, and I want to add how big, what kind. So I'm going to add that to my writing. And then I also want to explain how I feel when I think of a problem to a solution. That's how I want to revise my writing today. So then I'd model for them how I would change my writing. And I've already changed it here. I added that it was at the base of a big oak tree. Before it just said the base of a tree. And then at the end, I added how I felt when I got my dinner. I said, now I feel great. So make sure that you model how to revise and then model that revision for them. And then you're going to give them time. So you're going to give them, maybe 5 to 8 more minutes to write. They might need longer, they might need less, but you're going to give them time to revise their writing, taking the skills that you have just taught them, and then they're going to share their polished pieces. They may not be completely finished with their writing, and that's okay. They'll just share what they have. So after that, your time with your students on day 2 is complete. So we thought of some helpful hints for smooth facilitation. I've had the opportunity to facilitate, and it's a wonderful opportunity, but these hints might kind of help you to have a smooth lesson with the students. So first off, give yourself ample preparation time. It takes time to prepare for any kind of a lesson, but a lesson that is being done for, up to 500 students across the county using Zoom can be a little tricky at times, just using the digital technology. So prepare not only for your lesson, but also for using the technology. Test out Zoom, test out sharing your screen and unsharing your screen. I'd mentioned before, create a presentation in Google Slides or PowerPoint with all of your materials there. Add those nutty scientist videos, add your the pages of the student guidebook, run through your presentation with your partner. Last year, my partner and I ran through it a couple times just to make sure that we had enough material or it wasn't too long. I think I already said this, but practice Zoom and screen sharing, because you may have to unshare and share again, especially if you don't have it in a Google slide. And even if you do, there might be some parts where you think you're sharing your screen with the students, but they can't see it. So make sure that you find where those parts are and tweak that. I'm happy to go over your presentation with you and help you to know when to do those things. Next one is just involve the students as much as possible. It's hard you've just been sitting on Zoom for an hour. It's hard to sit here and listen to someone talk. So make sure that you interact with them. You give them lots of chances to use their switchboards, to answer verbally, to share their pieces. Students, anytime you can have them, all of them show something in the camera or give you a thumbs up or using their fingers to answer a question. That is just helpful, helps them to feel engaged, helps them to feel part of a conversation in a very large group of people in a digital format. And the last one is just make sure you're modeling all writing and STEM lessons for students. Make sure that your technology works. If you're using a document camera, make sure it's working correctly. Make sure make sure your computer is charged. Make sure that you have a charging cord nearby. Those are things that sometimes we don't think of because we're busy, but that will help for a smooth facilitation. So, before your facilitation date, please do the following things. Review the Student Lit Lab guidebook for your week. Review the website that I shared with you. And then prepare your lesson, your read aloud, your writing lessons, and your STEM lessons. And please, please, please schedule a time to meet with one of us on the team. We would be happy to go over your plans with you, to help you in any way, to help you to write your plans or to make your presentation. We are here to help you, so please use us. And just thank you. Thank you for your time today, listening to me for an hour. I know that was really long, but hopefully all the information you need to have a smooth facilitation time with these students was presented here today. And we're just so grateful for the time that you're taking to increase reading proficiency and writing proficiency for students across the county.